All right, so I just stopped the video because I gotta just chime in. Yo, this is crazy. And I called it. I'm starting to listen to they're like, they're gonna find a way to make this, they're gonna blame men for this. They're gonna keep blaming men and saying they're the problem, right? Even though this is about China doing away with filters, right? on social media accounts, right? And stuff like that, right? Like your Snapchat and stuff like that. So if they're doing away with that, who's using these filters the most? Is it men who are on there posting pictures of themselves with filters? Or is it women? Listen to this. This one's even gonna kind of contradict herself. She's gonna flat out give you the reason why there's a problem, who's responsible for it, but she's still gonna find a way to turn around and say, but it's the men. Watch this, listen to this.
9.8% of female streamers use beauty filters. Not just most.
Wow.
Almost all. These women built entire careers on faces that don't exist. Thousands of followers, donations from devoted
Men didn't build entire careers on faces that don't exist. Women did. But they're gonna still blame men. Watch.
fans, all for someone who was never real. We've spent years watching faces that don't actually exist, and we've been conditioned to think they're beautiful. But when you learn what it's doing to your brain,
Wait again. All right? It wasn't like a bunch of men rounded up these women, held them at, and at gunpoint said, this is the beauty standard, accept it or die, okay? They chose to accept this as the beauty standard because not all men look at this and say, this is attractive, right?
things get dark.
Yeah.
There's a psychological concept called cultivation theory. Long-term exposure to media content shapes what you believe is real. When you see filtered faces every single day, that
Okay, did it shape what the men believed was real, or did it shape what the women believed were real, or the girls? Because again, who's using the filters? Who's saying, I don't look good enough, I keep seeing this stuff, so let me cover up my face to match that. And then they're gonna say, well, it's because men look at this stuff. Right. They look at this stuff, but if women stood their ground and said, we don't need filters, right? We hold the line on what a beauty standard is, these filters wouldn't exist. There wouldn't be a problem. Men aren't believing the delusion. They are. Watch.
thousands of them.
Yeah.
Your brain starts accepting them as normal. Real faces start to look wrong.
Right, it's like you go out into the world and you can see everybody has flaws, but as soon as you turn on your cell phone, you seem to be the only person that has a flaw.
Research shows that comparing yourself to idealized images online is directly linked to body dissatisfaction and eating disorders.
I believe it.
But there's a twist. You're not competing with other women anymore. You're competing with AI.
Yep.
With algorithms that generate one perfect face and paste it onto everyone.
Yeah, makeup was enough, and then you add in plastic surgery, and then you have filters. Really, plastic surgery just makes you look like the algorithm. A lot of that stuff don't look good until you put makeup over it and then a filter on it, and then you put it online, and then it starts to kind of look good, but it really just looks like the algorithm. To me personally, it looks so copy and pasted that it doesn't even really look good to me personally.
Then there's self-objectification. When you spend hours monitoring your appearance, treating your face like a product to be upgraded and perfected, studies show it leads to anxiety and depression. You stop being a person, you become a project.
Yep.
Reality has gotten so distorted that a new medical term has been coined: Snapchat dysmorphia. Women are now seeking plastic surgery to look like their filtered
Look
selves.
like the algorithm.
They don't even want to look like models. They want to look like the algorithm's version of them.
Thank you.
These filters didn't just change how we look online. They've changed what our brains believe we should look like in reality. So why is China banning them? The official reason is to improve content quality and crack down on misleading visuals. But dig further, and deeper reasons emerge. This isn't just about vanity, it's about fraud. Chinese netizens started calling it out directly.
Yeah, I couldn't see any benefit to giving people access to a technology that just deceives people. Not only does it deceive them into thinking that they look like whatever they see on their camera phone, but it also deceives everybody else in the world. And this is
Think about this, right? This is going to lead into a future where we're living in something like the movie Surrogate, right? With Bruce Willis, okay? Where nobody but people in the federal government left their homes, right? Everybody worked from home. It didn't matter if you were a cop, a doctor, you name it. They sent out their surrogate selves into the world to do the things that they were supposed to do, and while they stayed at home running their surrogate from whatever chamber or lab or computer they had set up at home, right? and anyone that didn't go along with this lifestyle, they were considered the enemy. And this is why it's said by the federal government, because the FBI were allowed to stay out. They could actually send out men and women, the real people, because they were hunting down men and women that we're not going along with this, that were trying to fight against this, their version of this utopia that was being built to get people to wake up, to go back outside, to interact and things like that. That's what that's what this is. But that's what's really going on with this. That's what's going on with this. You gotta understand. All of this is predicated on the fact that people accept modern technology. That's all it is. You think about it. The more modern technology is put out there and we're told it's for convenience, look how less and less of men and women we really are. I don't like to use the word human because, it's two words combining, right? Something fused itself into man. He fused itself, right? So it's not man. There's men, there's women. Human are things that are walking around presenting themselves as men and women.
The reason why women should be the ones cheering for this in particular, because women go online and they feel like they got to compete with other women, but they're not even looking at actual women. They're just looking at algorithms. They're looking at these filters and they're looking at all this makeup and they think that this is what they have to look like. So in order to compete for the attention, they start putting on the filters, and then you end up in a point where, like she said, 98 or 99% of all the influencers are using these filters.
Streamers making money through excessive beautification are basically committing fraud. But the damage goes far beyond individual deception. It's social poison.
Yeah.
One Chinese commentator...
Yeah, you're peeing in the pool. Like, the moment a woman decides that she has to now use the filters to compete with other women that are using the filters, you're peeing in the pool because now other women are going to see you and feel like they now have to use the filters.
Explained it this way. Men no longer watch TV. They don't look at their own wives. They just scroll on their phone.
There you go. See? They're going to find a way to make it about the men. They accepted this reality. They believe this lie. They're endorsing it. They're getting the surgeries done. And they're saying, well, it's because that's what men look at. I'm sorry. Like the commentator is going to say in this video, I don't even look at that stuff. I don't even look at that stuff. You know what pops up? Look, hold on. I'll show you my feed. There's my feed. That's what comes up in my stuff. All right? Not these fake, half-naked women with filters on and crap like that. Don't even go there. That's the lies.
Fairies.
I don't. Anytime I see that type of stuff, I click am not interested. I like for my feed to be things that I'm interested in. Anytime they try to, because they do this in the algorithm, every now and then they'll just show you a pretty girl and they'll go, you sure you're not interested? And I click on the little 3 dots and I say not interested. I do not want to see that shit on my feed. I want to see things that inspire me.
But those fairies aren't real.
Right.
Do you think this is beneficial to relationships? To lowering divorce rates? He called it spiritual poisonous grain,
I agree.
not inferior to opium. Women using filters started believing their own illusions.
Exactly.
They'd look at their filtered face and think, I'm a 9 out of 10. I deserve...
See, she clicked out. She nailed it. Women started believing their own illusions, not man's illusion, theirs. It's this whole thing with the makeup, right? I prefer my woman not to have makeup. I've let women know when we've been together. You don't need makeup. You need to learn to love yourself and accept yourself as you are. No makeup, no eyeliner, none of that shit. No fake lashes. Accept yourself as the way you are, because that's how I'm accepting you, okay? The rest of the world can't. If they have a problem with that, if they got to tell you that you ain't beautiful because you don't have makeup and all this other shit on, that's their problem, and it's your problem for believing it. If you're going to be with me, all right, you're going to learn to love yourself in its natural form as much as possible. Because guess what? When it's all said and done, if we're still together and you're old and I'm old, guess what I'm not going to worry about? If you have makeup on, guess what you're not going to worry about? If you have makeup on, because we grew together, we've become so comfortable with each other. With one person, we've accepted each other. So why not do that now? It's BS. It's a lie. That's just a way to pass the buck off again, not accepting accountability, saying it's your fault, men, that we're like this. When we never say, hey, shove this makeup on your face, You can't go out the house without this. You know, it's just unbelievable how they keep turning it around. The shit that they do. It's like they knocked over a pile of blocks, and then they say you did it, or you caused them to do it.
Of a wealthy, tall, handsome man. Their standards skyrocketed, but walk down the street, you wouldn't see a single woman who looked like her online persona.
Exactly.
Beauty mode made them lose themselves. China isn't banning beauty filters because they're vain. They're banning them because they've become a form of mass psychological manipulation.
Bro, China is so based right now. They were talking about cracking down on rom-coms because they said that there's a growing number of women who have become deluded into believing that they're going to get a 6'5" white-collar Asian man, which is, come on now, not trying to, but there ain't that many tall Asian guys, to be honest. So, like, they were kind of cracking down on rom-coms, and you can look this up because they said that there's been this growing population of women that have been deluded through books and through television to believe that.
All right, he'll say base, but he ain't gonna tell you at the same time. Right now, China's going through its racist phase, right? Like, I've listened to the comedians because, like, some of the comedians now, they're doing a good job of covering the news, which was Robin Williams called it, because he said at one point in time, and I was like, this was before, he said, I want to say like before 2003, he was doing the interview, and it was like, someone asked him, why don't good comedians come out of Germany? And he said, maybe it's because Hitler killed them all, right? And then later on he was asked, where do they see the future of comedy going? And he said this, and it was proven right. He said, in the future, people will turn to comedians for the news, and they will turn to the news for comedy. Now look, come on. Do you trust Fox News? Do you trust CNN? Do you trust MSNBC? Do you trust any of them? Come on. All right? But yet, my guy I go to is like Kurt Metzger, right? Jimmy Dore, right? Oh man, who's that actor? Oh, he played in European Gigolo. Both of them, actually. I like Eddie Griffin. He's doing the news now, right? What's the other one? I can't think of his name right now, man. He was the Gigolo in the movie European Gigolo. I can't think of his name right now, and it's blowing my mind because he's one of my favorite comedians. But even he's covering the news, and politics. So he was proven right. But yeah, no, in China they're like 70s, early 80s mindset. If you're not telling some racist jokes, they'll boo you off stage. So yeah, you can say on one hand they're base, but on the other side they're still behind the times, even though they're more futuristic.
They're going to eventually get a wealthy guy, and they want their marriage rates to go up. They want their birth rates to go up, and this has been something they've been looking at as a social poison, and I can't blame them. That's just based.
Here's what the Chinese government isn't saying out loud. Across the...
You know what's going to lead to? It's going to lead to the acceptance of cloning. Okay? That's what all this is going to lead to. Remember, scientists can build a person, a man or a woman, just by having DNA. That's it. They don't need the eggs. They don't need the sperms. That's why I laugh at these women that are like, oh, we can have babies without men now. You don't understand. They're not doing that for the benefit of you. They ain't doing it for the benefit of this man. They're doing it for the benefit of those that are wealthy. Because what they can do now is build the perfect person. And you and me, these lower level people in society, I don't care, if you don't think you are. We are. Unless you are rubbing shoulders with the elites in their private parties, we are considered the lower levels of the rung of society. They can build, they can wipe us out and then build a society, right? And have if they want a society of blonde-haired, brown-eyed, you name it, Malaysians, okay? They can build that. If they just want a world full of Eskimos, they can do that. They don't need you and me. So next thing you can watch, next thing you know, cloning is going to come about. The answer to this problem is let's clone people, because no one's having babies anymore, right? They're not going to take accountability for the poisoning that they've done to the food, to the water, to the air, to the medicine. No. That's they're not going to and then they always talk about these people aren't having babies. Like, think about it, right? women control access to sex, right? This isn't like, Genghis Khan Day, where Genghis Khan could go around and just, rack up all the bodies he wanted. You know what I'm saying? Who's gonna stop him? This is 2026, if you believe in that, the day of their Lord and all that crap, right? If it's not consensual, you're in prison. So women control access to sex, right? Men control access to relationships, the commitment part. Do they want to stick with this chick after we do it? Okay? Women always seem to forget that part. They're like, oh, I could get a man right now. No, what you can do is get a guy to fuck you right now. That's the easy part. That's why nobody respects you, right? Because think about it, man, he's got to have some type of game. He's got to know what a woman thinks, what they like. He's got to know, he's got to know trivial stuff like, music and stupid stuff like, stuff that you see on TikTok, that piques their interest, just so he can get some. If he don't have any of that stuff, he ain't getting checked for it, right? So that's why dudes are like, that's the man. If he can get that many chicks, and we know we can get that many chicks, especially if you don't have to rely on looks. Because a lot of times those dudes that rely on looks, they have no game whatsoever. Like they're not that perfect. Like, remember the movie John Tucker Must Die? They're not that. He was charismatic. You know what I'm saying? He looks. He was funny. He was all that. So he could pull his chicks. He was more like a Chad Michael Murray, kind of dude, right? Had the looks, but didn't have the game. So when women are like, oh, I could get a dude, no, you can get a dude to fuck you. See how long that dude wants to sit around and commit to you, that's up to him. So when they say, no, the birth rate is plummeting, blah, 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 well, first take into consideration abortions. Second, take into consideration, women aren't finding men appealing. And then third, taking into consideration entertainment. Because this is what I've noticed just as, I'm passing through life, entertainment sets the standards for what these women will accept and what they don't accept. Like, the delusion is real.
Developed world, something catastrophic is happening. Birth rates are collapsing, marriage rates are plummeting.
Yep.
Young people aren't dating.
Yep.
They're not having relationships. They're not forming families. The United States, most of Europe, China, Japan, South Korea, the pattern is everywhere. And nobody can pinpoint exactly why. Except, what if social media is part of it? Think about it. Men scroll through thousands of digitally perfect women every day. Women no real person could ever compete with.
Right.
So why would they pursue real relationships? Why settle for reality when the fantasy is always one swipe away? And women compare themselves to these impossible standards and feel worthless. Or they demand partners who meet the same fictional criteria they see online. Both sides are chasing illusions. And by the way, if you suffer from debilitating period symptoms, check out Paramo. It's an all-natural drink that replenishes the nutrients your body loses each month, as well as providing symptom relief naturally. Discount link in description.